the environmentalist movement craves a lot of power and attention for the last 50 years. And we've been told since young that if we only inconvenience ourselves a bit more, if we only pay a bit more, if we only suffer a bit more, then we might have a chance to save the world. And if you're sick and tired of being lectured and talked down to, this video is for you. This video will give you the resources to prove that the environmental movement is fully made up of useless virtue signalers focusing on inconsequential concern of the world today, precisely because they are incompetent to understand and solve real world problems. Like, subscribe, and follow if you'd like to see more of such content.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite arguments to trigger environmentalists and alarmists, is to say that climate change is the least of our concern in the world today. This is more of an update of evidence or an argumentative update. And first of all, trigger warnings for environmental snowflakes like people in the climate rally, Singapore Youth for Climate Action, Fossil Free NUS, Climate Fresh, Climate Conversation, all of you, and all those non-mentioned insignificant ones. Not that because I mentioned you, you are significant. The point of this video is to say that your movement is insignificant. Okay, so people are not dying from climate change. As a matter of fact, human progress is doing very well. Human race is progressing very well. And your activism is not solving real world problems. Your movement is an unimportant movement.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President
What a great honor to be able to introduce for the
So I used to show people this chart, and still doing. I'm still showing people this chart that people dying from floods, drought, storm, wildfire, and extreme temperature, that's to say extreme heat and extreme cold, they have fallen over 99.4% over the last 100 years. And that's according to the Global Disaster Database. So whenever there's a death in floods, drought, storm, and all these things, climate related, this organization, they actually have a record. And they can trace back to 1920, reliable records. And I love to show people this. Okay, so on the right bars here, we have death. 24 leading causes of death, and this is being published in the 2011 Journal of American Physicians and Surgeons. If you look at the right bars, we see that global climate change ranked like last second. Okay, the top concerns are people dying from high blood pressure, tobacco use, high blood glucose, physical inactivity, overweight, obesity, high cholesterol, unsafe sex, and alcohol use. So people are dying from all these health risks more. So environmentalists may come back and say that perhaps people are not dying from climate change. Perhaps people are suffering from climate change. So I got that covered. So on the left bars over here, we have the disability adjusted life years. So looking at the 24 leading causes of health suffering. Okay, again, global climate change or global warming, people suffering from climate change rank last. The top concerns are underweight, unsafe sex, unclean water, sanitation, hygiene, alcohol use, high blood pressure, tobacco use, suboptimal breastfeeding, high blood glucose, overweight, and obesity again. So if we add up all the poverty-related causes of death and poverty-related causes of suffering, we add up underweight, zinc deficiency, vitamin A deficiency, unsafe sex, unclean water, sanitation, hygiene, unmet contraceptive needs, indoor smoke from solid fuels, suboptimal breastfeeding, and iron deficiency. If we add up all these leading health risks, whether is it death or suffering, measured in the form of dailies, these 10 poverty-related risks are 70 to 80 times larger than global warming. So this is all good. I was just a bit worried. Why was I worried? Because I was worried that this data is a bit outdated because it's published in 2011. That is more than 10 years ago. And since no environmental snowflakes have the guts to challenge me yet, therefore, I have to imagine their potential complaint of me using outdated data. So I need to get more recent data to prove that the attention-hungry environmental movement is useless more than 10 years ago and is still not solving real-world problems today. So lucky for me, I don't eat a vegan diet, therefore I have enough gray matter to do research for myself, to do my own independent thinking and independent judgment. So what did I do? So there's this, I go to this IHME, that is called the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation. What do? They are the steward of one of the world's largest scientific collaborators, the global, and they do this study called the Global Burden of Disease and Risk Factor Study. So their intent is to quantify health loss worldwide. And this is their website, and this is their QR code. You can scan it and you can go into this interactive comparison yourself. So if you click that link or scan that QR code, you will come to this very fun page. The point of me going through this exercise is to show you that you can do your research while you're not like the climate alarmist who is protesting at the street. You can do your own research, use your own mind, and make a independent judgment for yourself. And it's really, really simple. And this website is really, really interactive. So what do we have here? Display here is the cause. The measure here is death. Location globally. So you can have different countries or different areas. Okay. The year here, the latest data set that we have is 2019. It can go all the way back to 1990. So we have very, very good data set. So 2019 is not too far away from where we are today, and we can play with this level. So let me explain. The higher the level, the more specific it becomes, which I'll show you later. So at level 1, we see only 3 boxes of 3 different colors. We see the blue box, we see the orange box, we see the green box. Okay, so the blue box shows non-communicable diseases, and it's about 75%. And the orange box, which they group as group 1, they call it communicable diseases. Okay, and the green box are injuries. So let us dive deeper. If we go one level deeper, if we go to level 2, the previous blue box, we see more boxes coming out from the blue box. So we have cardiovascular diseases, we have diabetes and all these blue shades of blue is considered non-communicable diseases. You have digestive disease, you have chronic respiratory disease, you have neurological diseases even. Okay, just see for yourself. And then come to this orange boxes over here. Okay, they are communicable diseases, so they are more worrying because they spread and transmit from persons to persons. So these communicable diseases, they are more likely to happen in developing countries. So what do we have here? We have like maternal disorders, like maternal disease where they pass to the child. We have respiratory infection where it's transmitted through the air. We have HIV and sexually transmitted diseases. We have other types of infectious diseases. So these are the orange boxes over here. And then we come to the green boxes over here. So they have three main categories under injuries. We have unintentional injuries, we have transport injuries, and we also have self-harm or interpersonal violence, people dying from, I don't know, murder, terrorism, wars, and all that. So these are considered green. Okay, so uh, can you guess where people dying from climate change is? Certainly it's not a non-communicable disease, so it should not be under the blue boxes. Neither is it an infectious disease, because people dying from climate change is not an infectious disease, okay? So it has to be within the green boxes. Let us go one level down, or one level up to level 3. So this is a more specific overview. Okay, so since we know that dying from climate change is not blue, it's not orange, it's not a communicable disease, or neither is it a non-communicable disease, it has to be some form of injury. Okay, so let me zone down to here. Can you see? People dying from environmental heat and cold exposure is 0.084 of total death in the year of 2019. And people dying from forces of nature, that is 0.011% of total death in 2019. So it's not a case that 10 years before people are not dying from climate change, and 10 years later people are dying from climate change. That is simply not true. And these are causes of death. Again, we can use DALYs, which is a disability adjusted life years. And similarly, we see that people suffering from extreme heat and extreme cold, they are 0.1%. People suffering from extreme forces of nature, they are at 0.038%. Do play with this, it's very fun. Let's do a recap. Climate death as a percentage of global death. We know that climate death is classified under the subset of injuries. In total, there are 7.61 injuries as a percentage in total death in 2019. As a subset of those injuries, climate death is classified under unintentional injuries, which is at 3.14% of total death. So we add up people dying from extreme heat and extreme cold exposure, and that is only about 0.084, so it's one decimal point further. Plus, we added up to people dying from forces of nature, which is 0.011 of total death. In total, we get 0.095% of total death, people dying from the climate. And that's a very, very small number. And if we look at people suffering from climate, and if we look at the measurement of disability adjusted life years, which is DALYs, okay, unintentional injuries, we have about 4%. So as a subset of that, people suffering from extreme heat and extreme cold is only 0.1% of DALYs. We add that with 0.038% of people suffering from forces of nature. We add them all up, we have 0.138% of total DALYs. So, have you ever wondered why environmentalists are focusing on such a small issue? Probably because they do not have the competence to understand bigger issues. They do not have the competence to solve bigger issues. It's not easy to solve poverty. It's not easy to be a medical researcher. It's not easy to be a doctor. It's very easy to cry over and overblow a small issue into a big issue.
Subscribe to this channel and help me gain momentum because I want to debate environmentalist group like SG Climate Rally, Green Nudge, Singapore Youth for Climate Action, Climate Conversations, Students for Fossil-Free Future, Fossil-Free NUS, World Wildlife Fund Singapore, Centre for Responsible Future, Nature Society Singapore, and Mother Earth Toastmasters. Just bring it. YouTube, I need you to help me to ask them to bring it. Most importantly, join this new movement to fight for humanity against the environmentalists. Show the environmentalists that we are too big and too smart to be bullied.